Welcome back into the Do Hard Things Today podcast. This is your host, Kevin Harrison. I've got Coach Katie Malone and Jed Blackwell here. Today we are talking about the Walt Disney World Marathon weekend. We talk about the Dopey Challenge a lot here. I've got a lot of Run Disney listeners that tune in to hear our annual Dopey Challenge and Walt Disney World Marathon series. And man, this year there are some big-time changes to the – and any time that something happens with Disney and there's changes, there's much gnashing of teeth.
Yes, there's panic.
Yeah, the Disney people, we're a different breed of animal, and there are some major changes to the Walt Disney World Marathon weekend, and we promised we would do a course review and talk about these changes, and talk about some of the feedback on the Facebook group. I mean, when it hit, it like blew up on that Facebook group, and just a lot of people complaining about a lot of things. You know, all these are first world problems that we talk about. We're talking about going to Disney World and running in a marathon and the problems of a course change. But what we wanted to do was just, and this will be a lot of me talking about the specific changes and some of the feedback from some of the questions that came on that Dopey Challenge Facebook group that we have. And then I'm going to let Jed and Coach Katie weigh in on some tips for not letting your mind get the best of you and not thinking about the negatives and those kind of things. And, just to kind of set your mind at ease and help you not to start. Our last podcast was about stress, not to stress over things that you cannot control.
Because that's me, the picture of positivity.
Yeah, the Mr. Positive over there. And so, man, I think the biggest change, and everybody that goes to Walt Disney World for these races, the first thing that strikes them is, man, you start so early. You start at 5 o'clock in the morning. Well, 5 o'clock wasn't quite early enough for Walt Disney World. Now we're going to 4:30. So we are starting the marathon at 4:30 in the morning. The reasoning being that they want to give you more time in the parks, and they want to clear you out of the parks. I think they're starting it early because there's a 16-minute mile. That's your minimum pace, and you start extrapolating those things out. The last corral usually goes off somewhere in that hour range after the start of the race. The last starter usually goes out about an hour after. Then you start thinking about what 16-minute mile is for 26 miles. Well, you're into the 7-hour range.
Right.
So now 5:30, if that's the last starter that goes off, they should be clearing off the course around 12:30. Right. So they're getting people out of the parks and those kind of. So I get it, but my goodness, that's early in the morning.
What day is that? Is that on Saturday?
That's on Sunday. That's the marathon.
Okay.
Yeah.
I want to weigh in about the early start as somebody who's only ever done the shortest of the races, but also the most crowded of the races in the 5K. And I was with someone who was doing the half marathon last year when we went. And the temptation is going to be, even if you're doing the Dopey, the temptation is going to be, okay, well, I'm going to get down there and I'm going to, that's early, but I'm going to get plenty of rest the night before. I'm going to You're not.
Mm-hmm.
You're not. You're at Disney World. You're going to be Disney World stimulated. You are not going to bed. You can add an hour. I'm telling you right now to add an hour to the time you think you're going to bed.
It is for the Dopey Challenge, and for those people who do it for the first time, I always say it is the hardest and most surprising thing about the weekend is those 4 early morning starts, because you are at Disney and you're not going to sleep.
No, you're not going to bed. You're
not at home. And you're at Disney World, and you're wanting to do stuff. Even if you're not going out to the parks, you're generally going to want to go somewhere. Let's go down to Disney Springs and just eat. Well, then you go down there and eat, and the wait's a little bit longer than you thought it would be, and then you take the bus back to your hotel, and it's just then you get back, and you're excited, and
maybe you can see fireworks from your balcony.
Yep. And then you just can't sleep, and so it makes a big deal. And 4:30. Now, if you're leaving 3 o'clock in the morning for the 5, now you're backing that up to where you're down into the 2s.
Right.
When you were getting up and getting going.
And why go to bed?
That's what I was about to say. Yeah. If you're not in the bed by 11, there's very little point.
Yeah. I mean it.
Just stay up.
And we will talk about some strategies of some midday naps and some other things that could possibly
At Disney.
Yeah, I know. Trust me.
I'm a midday Disney napper.
Yeah,
Okay.
I know. But anyway, so that's number one, is the start time has moved back to 4:30. The second biggest thing, and I'm telling you, the thing that has received more negativity than anything about the entire change, is the World Showcase. And for those of you that aren't that familiar with Disney, the World Showcase is in Epcot, and that's where all the countries are. Traditionally, in fact, not traditionally, every single year of the marathon, you finish running around the countries. So you run around the entire World Showcase, the big lake there, and you come all the way around. People stop at Germany, and they call it the beer mile, where they stop and get one of those steins of beer from Germany, or the margarita stand in Mexico. It's kind of a tradition for a lot of people in Disney, if that's your thing. But that used to be the end. Well, that has changed. You no longer finish going through World Showcase. You finish, you come in by England, and you slide right in front of Canada, go right down towards the Epcot ball, and then take a right going out towards Test Track and Guardians, and go out that way. You do not hit World Showcase at the end. You hit it at the beginning. Jed, you'll be familiar with this. 5K, 10K, they all start, and you go through.
That's basically where you go.
Yep. Yeah, you're taking that route, and you will come out, and you'll be leaving Epcot around mile 3. So that's about 3 miles in, you'll be leaving Epcot. But you're going to go through World Showcase. For the first time, you'll go through World Showcase at the beginning of the marathon.
At 5 in the morning.
Yeah, 5 in the morning. Yeah, I mean those, and if you're in an early corral, I mean you'll be out of Epcot by 5 in the morning.
Right.
I mean you'll be heading towards Magic Kingdom.
So just one tip.
Yep.
If you're going to pass Germany, you probably shouldn't start drinking if it's in the beginning of the race.
No, you will have.
There won't be anybody there to serve you a beer.
Yeah, there won't
Okay.
be. They will not be open yet, and you'll have 24 miles left. So that would not be a good
Okay.
idea. But that, you would be surprised how mad this has made people about. I mean, it's something that they've always done. And then when you're coming through the last country you pass on your right is Mexico, and there's a little margarita stand there, and there are people that stand there with those little plastic margaritas and handing them to runners as they go by, and they get them, and they go across the finish line with them. And so some people are very, very, very upset about that. And so now let's keep on moving down the course. And the next big change is going into the Magic Kingdom. Used to be you would run down, you would hit the Ticket and Transportation Center, you'd hit the little road, go by the Contemporary underneath the little Seven Seas Lagoon, and then you would go into the Magic Kingdom this way. We don't do that anymore. We don't go to the Ticket and Transportation Center first. We go down, and you're going to pass by the Polynesian on your right, then the Grand Floridian, and then you're going to go on that little pathway that goes around the Seven Seas Lagoon, and you're going to go into the front of Magic Kingdom that way. So instead of going in, when you hit the Magic Kingdom, instead of going to the right and going to the Contemporary and going in that way by the bus loop, you're actually going to go by the Polynesian. Polynesian will be on your right. And this will be interesting because that Polynesian and Grand Floridian, one very positive thing I like about this is taking out what we call Cone Alley. If you've ever done the half marathon or full marathon, that area that ran from the back of where Splash Mountain, or now Tiana's Bayou Adventure is now, used to come out that way. That's the way you came out of Magic Kingdom, and then you would get on this long road that was just cones. That's all it was, just cones in the middle of the road, and that would run all the way up to the Grand Floridian. Now we're coming in that way, except we're not going to go all the way down Cone Alley. We're just basically going to come in, and where the Polynesian, you're going to go around the Polynesian and Grand Floridian, and you're just going to go around the lake all the way around, past the monorail, and then you'll go in the front of Magic Kingdom. And Grand Floridian, you're going to pass Grand Floridian about mile 8, and you're going to enter the Magic Kingdom at around mile 9. That's changed throughout the years. Used to be you'd be down at the Magic Kingdom about mile 5. I like hitting the Magic Kingdom a little bit later because that just gives you something to aim at. So now you're in Magic Kingdom at mile 9, and so you're coming out, getting close to that mile 11 area. So now that almost gets you halfway. Not quite halfway, but it takes out a big chunk of the marathon.
And the sun's up for more people, and you're seeing things a little bit better.
Yep. I mean, 9 miles in, I mean, especially if you're starting at the back of the pack and maybe you're not starting till 5:15, 5:30 or so, and if you're on that 16-minute mile pace, I mean, you're going to be, the sun's definitely going to be, it's going to be 7:30 or so before you're getting there. So, positives and negatives, but you're going to be leaving the Magic Kingdom. And now, let me talk about in the Magic Kingdom. Big difference here. So you're going to hit Main Street. Used to be you'd be coming in with the contemporary side. You'd hit Main Street. You take a right and go down into Future World, and then Tomorrowland, and then you would come back. You'd come back around, come around Fantasyland, through the castle, down past Liberty Square, straight through Frontierland, and you'd exit by the old Splash Mountain. Now that's changed. Now you come in Main Street, come up Main Street, and now you're going to hang a left, and you're going to go into Adventureland. From Adventureland, you're going to head over to Frontierland. One thing that I've noticed about this course that I'm very interested to see how this plays out. Frontierland, if you're familiar with where the entrance to the old Splash Mountain, which I'm protesting because I have not ridden the new ride yet, but Splash Mountain was my favorite ride of all time in Disney. So I'm still going to I'll call it the old Splash Mountain. Where that and Runaway Train is what my kids call it, where those two are, there's a hairpin turn right there where you go right in front of Splash Mountain, and then you take a full 180 turn, and you're going to come back. It's going to be very interesting to see how all the runners get through there. I know my strategy. My strategy is I'm a pretty big guy, so I'm just going to get kind of wide going into that turn and then turn in. But that can be a bottleneck. You're going to turn there. You're going to go through, come back through Frontierland, hit Liberty Square. Then you'll go through Liberty Square, go by Peter Pan on your right, and you're going to go through the castle. So you will come through the castle. Then you're going to take a left and go to Fantasyland, and you're going to take a left and kind of whip back around and almost make a 180 turn as you pass the castle. You're going to take a left, and you're going to take that other hard left coming back towards the teacups, which you should never ride. You got to be crazy to get on those teacups. Go by the teacups, and you're going to go by the mine train, whip back around, and then you'll end up over into Tomorrowland, and then the exit. So Fantasyland, in that range, it's going to be about mile 10 is in Fantasyland. Then you'll hit Tomorrowland, and then you're going to exit back out. You will not exit back out the front. You're going to exit out kind of behind. When you come out of Tomorrowland there, you'll for those of you that have run, you'll know where I'm talking about going out there. So then Magic Kingdom to Animal Kingdom is where it kind of starts getting back to normal, but you'll follow the route out of Magic Kingdom. Just picture the way you used to come into Magic Kingdom, just follow that route backwards. You're going to go by the Contemporary, run down the hill, go underneath the Seven Seas Lagoon, go up to the Ticket and Transportation Center, and then you're going to go into the parking lot. And there's a little additional parking lot loop here, which nobody likes parking lot loops, but they're just getting some miles in the parking lot in front of the Ticket and Transportation Center. That's going to be about mile 12. And then you're kind of going to go back to normal. After mile 12, mile 13 that's where the paths cross, and I'm not exactly sure how they're going to navigate this, but mile 13, it appears on the course that there's a cross there, cross from where people are coming in towards the Magic Kingdom and where people are coming out. But that's mile 11 to 17 is Magic Kingdom to Animal Kingdom. You'll follow the same path. About mile 16 is where you're entering Animal Kingdom. Mile 19 is where you're coming out of Animal Kingdom all the way. For those of you that like to ride Expedition Everest, it's at about mile 17 and a half. So you kind of got to figure your time there. depending on what kind of pace you're going to be on, you may get there too early,
Right.
depending on what your pace is. So if that's something that's important to you, you just need to plan for it. So again, it's at a mile 17 and a half. So just figure your pace and figure how important that is to you. So get out. You're about in the mile 19. And then I've got what I call the dread. And this is mile 19 to 23. And this is where Blizzard Beach, the parking lot, is. And so when you get to mile 20, probably mile 21, 22 are going to be what most people are dreading, because you're running down a road and you're in a parking lot, right, and you're making these big loops, and you're neck deep into a marathon at that point. Depending on when you're on the course, it can be getting hotter at that point, and you're out in the sun baking. So I would just tell you to prepare for that. I like that better. It used to be we'd go through Wide World of Sports, and I had this mental block about Wide World of Sports of just how boring it was. Some people are begging for that to come back. I hope it never comes back. But that's where you are. Then leave there, Hollywood Studios, about mile 23 and a half, and buddy, you're in and out. You come in by the Tower of Terror, you go up and take a left, and you're right out. It's the shortest park you're in. Then you'll run from there over to Epcot. And when you get back to Epcot, instead of going through, and this is going to be really hard, because I think I've 15 straight marathons I've run there, run all the dopies, but ran a few goofies before that. Every single one of them, you've gone in and you've hung a right. And man, when you come in right there and you hang that right, it's like, man, I've got World Showcase. This thing's over. Everybody's cheering you on. Now you're going to come in behind England. You're going to hang a left past Canada, and then you're going to go down and out by the Ticket and Transportation Center. And so lots of changes. And like you know, Jed, being a big Disney fan, it is, anytime there's changes like this, people get upset. They've got things they're happy about, things they're not so happy about. You have any thoughts on?
Yeah, to put it in perspective, there have been massive changes to the way the skip the line process works, and nobody's talking about them because everybody's talking about the course instead.
Yep.
Skip the line.
Yeah, there's a couple of different ways you can pay for things to skip the ride lines.
Okay.
And nobody's talking about those in the running community because everybody's so hung up on the way the course looks. Yeah. Other than, we talk about strategy a lot. You tell people how to strategize these races, and one of those is just to enjoy yourself and ride all the rides and stuff like that. How much of that fun is it going to eliminate?
Well, all the rides that you could ride in Hollywood Studios and Epcot are still at play.
Okay.
The main one's going to be, and again, you're 17 and a half miles in for Expedition Everest, and that's probably the ride that most people, whenever they think about riding things, for whatever reason, that's the one that people ride. And, you just have to do the math. I mean, if you're starting in maybe the third or fourth corral, you're probably going to go off at 4:45 now. And if you're running let's say a 10-minute pace at 17 miles, well, that's 170 minutes, almost 3 hours. So that's going to put you there at 7:45. It's not going to be open.
Right, they're not quite open yet.
Again, that's where you have to decide.
Mm-hmm. Are you going to slow down?
What's it worth to you?
Yeah.
Do you want to slow down?
They're not going to open the park so that the fast people get to ride the rides?
Oh, no. It's park open, and it will probably be open at 8 that day. That's usually when it will open for park guests. But no, they don't open early. They open at park opening hours. And
so this little, I'm not even doing it, and I'm upset.
Yeah, I mean it does. That is, and again, some listening to this are thinking, what do you mean, right? For the Disney community, a lot of people, it is important. Some people, you would be surprised at the things that people do. And some of the people that are fast runners that have done this many times, they add all kind of challenges in. Some of them will stop. They will make lunch reservations and will stop and eat lunch during the marathon. to try to see how many things they can do. They will see how many rides they can do. They will add all these little intricacies into, like I said, the Disney running community we're a different group of people.
Well, they're going to have to stop and have breakfast so they can ride the rides.
Yeah, stop. Well, and that is what some people will choose to say, okay, I need to slow down on this, so I'm going to hit every single character stop from the start of that marathon until we get to Expedition Everest, because I don't want to get there until 20 after 8. They're going to be making these different targets. That's the only one that's in play. I mean, once you get over to, everything's going to be open in Hollywood Studios. Everything will be open in Epcot. So those are still in play. I've got a few. Let me give you my negatives and positives. I'm going to start with the negatives because I want to end with the positives. The biggest negative I see is we don't end in Epcot in the World Showcase. That, to me, is the biggest deal. Second negative is the parking lots, the Blizzard Beach, and then the Ticket and Transportation Center. Nobody likes running in a parking lot. Third thing is there's quite a bit of intersections, and there's quite a bit of opportunities for course cutters on this particular course. The fourth one is 4:30. That may sound like it's only 30 minutes, but it wasn't that long ago. It was 5:30.
Right.
And then they bumped it back to 5, and now it's down to 4:30. So that's early, especially on that last day when you're sucking wind anyway. And the last thing, and this is important for some people, means nothing to others, is the beer in Germany, the margaritas. You're not going to pass those.
Right.
And so if that's like super important to you, I'm sure you can run over there, run off course, and go get them. They're not going to throw you out for doing that.
Right.
But that is a tradition for a lot of people. The positives, more Magic Kingdom, a lot more Magic Kingdom. You go through all the lands, so you're in Magic Kingdom a whole lot longer. The 30-minute start means that you're going to be in the heat for 30 minutes less. It could be anything in Florida. It could be been down there where I finished the marathon and it's been 55 degrees. I finished the marathon and it's been 95 degrees. So you just never know what you're going to get. And you won't know until about a week before. But you will, whatever it is, there will be less heat. And then number 3 is the start motivation. There for a while you started at Epcot and you ran for about 5 miles and didn't see anything. You ran on a highway from Epcot to the Magic Kingdom, and then you basically were just holding out, getting yourself going until you got to the Magic Kingdom, and that's where the fun started. This year you do, about 1 mile in, you're going to be running into Epcot, into the World Showcase. I personally, it's hard for me to say that it's going to be as good running through World Showcase at 4:45 in the morning as it will be coming in on mile 25 of the marathon.
Yeah, I don't see how that would be any kind of trade at all.
I don't think it is. I don't think it's a good trade.
I thought you were going for positives, right?
But I am saying that from the start perspective, it's a lot better start than what we've had in the past. You're going to go through World Showcase, so you are going to do something different, and you will come out of 3 miles in, you will have already gone through a park,
right,
which is better than just running on a road. So those are my negatives and positives. What would you two add to that? Advice?
Do we know any reasons for the change?
The only reason being given is that they said they got feedback from runners that they want more time in the parks and that they want to clear the parks out earlier.
Okay.
And we did get more time in Magic Kingdom. Really didn't, the Epcot was a trade-off, but you were going to all the lands in Magic Kingdom for the first time, which is a big deal.
Yeah.
It is obviously a big deal, but I think the move to 4:30 was to clear out the parks, and I think the move for the World Showcase was to clear people out of that busy area of the park, because what they have to do is they have to basically one half of the walkway they have to
it's for runners,
marked off for runners, and so I think it's a business. Disney they have to do what they have to do, but when you get into, if you start at 5, and sometimes that last crowd doesn't get off until 6:15, and then you add a little bit over 7 hours to it. Well, now you're up at 1:30 when people are finishing. That's the park's been open for 5.5 hours.
How much of the pushback do you think is people who haven't considered any of these points and just it's not the way it was, so I don't like it?
Yeah, I mean, that's a lot of it because I mean I've felt some of that. I mean I've the more I think about, gosh, and again we had that podcast on stress where it's like control the things you can control, but I think about like, man, I really every single marathon I've ever run in Disney, I have finished going, and I know, like right now, I know, okay, this is where every point is. This is where that mile 25 is. This is where, I mean, I can picture the 25-mile marker right here, where it's supposed to. Listen to what I said. Where it's supposed to be.
Right.
But your legs are still going to feel the same. It'll be okay.
Yeah. Oh, I know it will. I mean, it will. And Disney will. I feel confident they will do it right because they have heard and they know that people are a little bit upset about not finishing in World Showcase. So I'm sure they will make that last mile or so, or last couple of miles really, be something special. Disney always does that. And again, look at the trade-offs. We're going through every single land in Magic Kingdom. We're getting more time there. You know, that we are going through World Showcase. It's at the beginning, and I don't think that's a fair trade, but it is a much better start. And again, for you dopey challengers, especially you first-timers, you're going to be standing at the start of that marathon, and you're going to be wondering, what in the heck did I get myself into? Because you're going to be tired, your legs are going to be sore, and you're like, I've got to run a marathon. And so that may actually be a bigger benefit than I think it is, of being able to do something interesting rather than just running on a – used to be rough, man. You run 5 miles on a highway, basically, you know, from Epcot to Magic Kingdom on tired legs in the dark. It's hard to – I mean, that's not real motivating.
No, it's tough.
At least you're going to be in the World Showcase now.
Right.
So what other questions? Any questions? Any tips?
I think it's all in your head when it comes to running a marathon. I mean, it doesn't matter where you run, what you're looking at. It's like, yeah, I guess if you want to ride those rides, you better plan your race and your pace. But those are things you're going to do no matter what marathon you're running. So you'll be fine.
Control what you can control.
Yeah.
So if I've got any advice, is embrace it for the unique experience that it is.
Yeah.
You're not doing this anywhere else.
Well, it is. You know, you last year, you know, talked about, you know, Bonnie, your wife, ran the half marathon, trained tremendously for it, and was absolutely ready to run it. And then we had a lightning, and so it got cut in half. And but like I said last year, she got to do something in the half marathon that last year was my first time ever doing it, actually getting to run through World Showcase in the half marathon.
Right. She got to do that. Just after her, she was actually fast enough to not be among the last people who got redirected. So a lot of people finished ahead of her who didn't run as far as she did. Mm-hmm. Just after her, they cut it even further. She didn't get cut again, which is huge. And I think she ran 7.62 miles. She's got a new personal best in 7.62 miles.
And can say she did. And this will be for anybody running this marathon in this January. You will be the only people in the history of the world who have ever run this course.
Absolutely.
And
you're it.
And I do look forward as I've even thought about this. I mean, after you've done it again, I think it's my 15th year straight doing it. I think it is. I can't remember how many goofies
I would know exactly how many marathons I had run.
I think he knows.
Well, I think it's 15 of the thing. Now I do know I'm Perfect Dopey. If I haven't mentioned that already.
Not today.
Did I mention that I was Perfect Dopey? But
it's in the show notes
every time. Well, what I did as I was thinking about it, even coming out of the Magic Kingdom, I'm like, hey, that's gonna be interesting, going down that road and looking to the left and seeing the Contemporary, and you know the sun will be coming up by then, and we'll be coming The Sun will be behind the Contemporary. Seven Seas Lagoon will be to your right. Ticket and transportation there's going to be to your right. I mean, and that may not seem like much, but it's different.
It's a different view.
It's different. You're not going to do Cone Alley, that was a horrible part of the course.
When is it? What's the date this year? Is it as early as it was last year?
Gosh, it's the second. Well, the Dopey starts on the second Thursday of January, whatever that is.
Last year it was early enough that the Christmas decorations were still up.
Yeah.
That was neat.
They may be at the beginning. Yeah. They usually take them down that weekend, but it starts the second Thursday of that month. I mean of January, but it'll be a good time. So a lot of changes. But man, I mean, they've made changes before, and you just adjust to them. You take what the course gives you, and the main thing is get your training in. No matter if you're trying to go out and set a PR or whether you're trying to just do, just go out and don't make the mistake of thinking, especially first time dopies. You cannot fake your way through the Dopey Challenge. If you don't train and you think, hey, I can walk a 16-minute mile. Well, you might can walk one or three, but you will have already, if you're planning on walking the whole time, you have already walked a 5K, a 10K, and a half marathon. And now you're going to be on tired legs. You're going to be exhausted. And you're going to be standing at the start line with 26 miles.
And if you're planning on walking, you better walk in training.
Yep.
Well, and that's
different muscles.
And that's also if you haven't taken a step in the parks other than just your routes.
You may get an additional 10 miles in the park.
Probably.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Those are facts.
I was going to say 10 seems like a pretty good baseline.
Yeah. I mean, that's a conservative estimate. If you're going to be out in the parks, just train. Get your training in. And again, you do not have to go try to set a PR. But I can tell you this, that if you go and you put the training in, it's a much, much more enjoyable experience. And it gives you options. It gives you options where on that, if you want to take the marathon, and we've talked about different training strategies and different goals for the different races, but, you can get to that marathon portion, and if you want to run a hard half marathon, then you can take the marathon a little bit easier. Maybe, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to try some of this crazy stuff, and I'm going to try to get every single character stop in. I'm going to try to ride 2 rides. I'm going to try to, whatever it may be that you want to do, you can have a little bit more fun on that day. But if you're not trained, then let me use a little slang. There ain't nothing going to be fun about Sunday when you're standing there. And you can see it when you're standing in the crowds. You can see it in people's eyes when they're just they are defeated before they even start. And and you hope it's not true, but 3 or 4 miles in, they're going to be on that bus. And they're going to be going back to the hotel. And that's not what you want.
No, that's sad.
But most people, if you end up on that bus, you only got one person to blame.
Yeah.
And that's yourself for not getting the training in. So you're going to be listening to this probably right before Thanksgiving.
Yeah.
I would just encourage you. Don't let from Thanksgiving to New Year's Eve, don't let that time period crush you. Get your stuff in, be consistent. We all have times. I had a bad week last week. Didn't get much of my training in. Get back on the wagon, get your training in, be prepared, and like everything else we say, do the hard things today. And that dopey training will take care of itself.